in the lonely sweep of the Arizona frontier, where the wind carried dust like whispered regrets, and the sun punished the land. Without mercy, Elias Crow waited for a woman he had never seen. He was a small man by frontier standards, thin from years of drought and disappointment, a rancher who had survived more by stubbornness than strength. Letters had promised him a bride, delicate, refined, educated back east, someone gentle enough to soften the harsh edges of his life. The mail order agency's words had painted her like porcelain, pale hands, quiet voice, grateful heart. Elias believed them because believing was easier than facing another winter alone. When the stagecoach finally appeared at dawn, he adjusted his hat, rehearsed a polite smile, and prayed that fate had not lied to him yet again. But fate, as Elias soon learned, had a brutal sense of humor. The stagecoach door opened, and instead of a fragile woman stepping down, the ground seemed to tremble. She emerged tall, unnaturally tall, broad-shouldered, wrapped in a weathered cloak, her presence commanding the air itself. Her skin was copper-toned, her dark hair braided thick and long, her eyes sharp, with a calm that came from surviving storms men like Elias could not imagine. She was Apache, a giant by any measure. Conversations stopped. Horses snorted nervously. Elias felt the world tilt beneath his boots as she looked directly at him and spoke his name with certainty, as if she had known him long before this moment. Confusion turned quickly into fear. Whispers rippled through the small settlement, warnings, old hatreds, half-remembered stories of raids and blood. Elias tried to speak, to explain there must be a mistake, but the woman only stood firm, her posture unyielding, her dignity unbroken. She carried papers too, legal, official, undeniable. The agency had failed him, or perhaps failed her. But the truth was cruelly simple. They had been matched. Bound by ink and distance and desperation, Elias wanted to run, yet something in her gaze stopped him. There was no malice there, only endurance, and a quiet challenge, as if she dared the world to underestimate her again. That night, Elias did not sleep. Neither did she. Two strangers bound by accident and expectations sat under the same roof, divided by fear thicker than any wall. Elias wondered if he had invited disaster into his life. The Apache woman, who finally told him her name was Ayana, wondered if this lonely rancher could be trusted at all. Outside, the coyotes howled, and the land listened, as if waiting to see which of them would break. First, the frontier has a way of stripping lies bare, and over the following days, Elias learned that Ayana was nothing like the stories he had been told. She rose before dawn, worked until the sun burned white overhead, and moved across the land with an understanding Elias had never possessed. She repaired fences with hands scarred by survival, calmed frightened horses with a single low word, and faced hostile stares in town without lowering her eyes. Where Elias expected anger, he found restraint. Where he expected danger, he found discipline. Slowly, against his will, fear gave way to respect. Trouble came soon enough. Local men, emboldened by old hatred and new rumors, decided the rancher had made a dangerous mistake. One violent night they rode out, torches flickering like cowardly courage. Elias froze, memories of every failure rising in his throat. But Ayana did not hesitate. She stood between the ranch and the threat, her presence immovable, her voice cutting through the chaos with authority earned through hardship. She did not fight to prove dominance, she fought to protect. And in that moment, Elias understood something that changed him forever. Strength was not about size or violence, but about choosing to stand when others turned away. By dawn, the ranch still stood. So did they. Word spread, not of fear, but of respect. The Apache woman, who had arrived like a mistake, became the reason the land survived. Elias, once a man shrinking from the world, began to grow into himself, learning humility, courage, and gratitude. Their bond was not born of romance, but of shared survival, and in the frontier, that kind of bond was stronger than love promised on paper. As the sun rose over the land, Elias realized the truth he had been too blind to see. He had not been sent the woman he asked for. He had been sent the woman he needed. And if this story moved you, inspired you, or made you see strength in a new way, subscribe to the channel, because stories like this remind us that destiny doesn't arrive the way we expect, but always the way we need. The land did not forgive easily, and neither did the people who believed they owned it by blood and rumor. After the night the riders were turned away, silence settled over Elias Crow's ranch like a held breath. No one spoke openly of what had happened, but every glance in town lingered too long. Every greeting felt weighed with judgment. Elias felt it in his bones. The calm was temporary. Men who were humiliated rarely forgot, and hatred, once wounded, sharpened itself into something far more dangerous. Ayanna sensed it too. She moved differently now, more alert, her eyes scanning the horizon, not with fear but with readiness, as if she were listening to a drumbeat only she could hear. Elias tried to convince himself that things would return to normal, but the truth gnawed at him. His ranch was no longer just his burden, it was hers as well, and that frightened him more than the threats outside. He had invited her into a life of hardship and danger without truly understanding the cost. One evening, as the sky burned red and purple, he finally spoke the doubt that had been choking him. He told her she was free to leave, that he would not blame her, that this marriage, born of ink and error, did not have to become her prison. The words tasted like failure, but he forced them out anyway. Ayanna listened, without interruption. When he finished, she stood, towering over him as always, yet her voice was calm, grounded. She told him she had already lost one home, her people scattered, her land taken piece by men who never learned to listen. Running again would not make her safer. Standing her ground might. She did not choose him because of the papers, she said. She stayed because the land spoke truth, and so slowly did he. For the first time, Elias did not feel small beside her. He felt seen. The threat came sooner than expected. At dawn, dust rose on the horizon, more riders than before, armed not just with torches but with intent. Elias's heart hammered as memories of every frontier story ended in blood, flooded his mind. But Ayanna did not rush into violence. She prepared. She showed Elias where to stand, how to move, when to wait. She spoke to him not as a protector commanding a weak man, but as a warrior trusting an equal. In that quiet preparation, Elias felt something shift inside him. Fear was still there, but it no longer ruled him. When the riders arrived, they found no chaos, no panic. They found resolve. Ayanna stepped forward, her presence cutting through their anger like stone through water. She spoke of consequences, not threats, but truths. The land remembered violence, she told them. Blood spilled here would not wash away. Elias stood beside her, hands shaking, voice steady enough. He did not shout. He did not beg. He simply refused to step aside. That refusal changed everything. Some riders turned back. Others hesitated. The leader saw it then, the unity he could not break. And hatred, when denied its victory, often retreats before it festers again. They left not defeated by force, but by something far rarer on the frontier, unyielding solidarity. As the dust settled, Elias realized the unthinkable had already happened. He was no longer waiting for life to happen to him. He was standing in it. And beside him stood the woman the world had warned him to fear, the woman who had become the strongest truth in his life. If this chapter gripped you, stay with us and subscribe, because the greatest battles are not fought with weapons, but with the courage to stand when fear tells you to kneel.